Hi, this is Rachel Nolan, and we're going to be going over tort liability in schools. So what is tort liability? It's a wrongful act that can lead to legal liability. Usually the individual is liable for the consequence of their action or inaction that causes harm to others. You can have intentional torts or negligent torts. Intentional torts would be assault, battery, defamation, or false imprisonment. Negligent torts result from negligence, which includes having a duty and then having a breach of duty, proximate cause, and then resulting in an injury. So the first case is Frame versus Comeau. Comeau was a substitute teacher who, in a test, felt the need to remove a couple students for talking and being rowdy. He removed a few students, and then the student Frame was also being disruptive. He was asked twice by the teacher to leave, and he didn't. And so the third time he stood up very slowly, and the teacher grabbed his arm and tried to pull him out of the class, and then he fell back. The family sued, claiming that the teacher assaulted him. It was assault and battery. The court found that it was in fact battery, but under the circumstance was justified. So if this was my school, some reactive measures, we'd probably interview students in the class, we'd call parents, the teacher would probably be disciplined, and if it was a substitute teacher, most likely let go, even if the court found them not at fault. That's just unacceptable behavior. Some proactive measures, make sure substitutes are trained in school policies so they know what they can and can't do. Have someone call for subs to call if they need help with classroom management, and have strong consequences for students when there's substitutes there so they are less likely to act out. And then professional ethics. Teachers and adults working with students should never engage in physical contact with students unless it's absolutely necessary. And I would think in this case it wasn't necessarily absolutely necessary. The next one's Flanagan versus Canton. Flanagan was a fifth grader who was pushed in the locker room by another student. He had to have spleen removed. His family sued based on the fact that the locker room wasn't supervised because the class had been unruly and the teacher had let them go to the locker room late, and then he stayed behind to discipline a few other students. And then Flanagan was injured while the teacher was disciplining other students elsewhere. The court sided with Flanagan because due to the class's bad behavior, the boys acting out in the locker room should have been foreseeable. Teachers are only liable for foreseeable injuries, and so usually this would be unforeseeable. Because of the class's behavior, it was foreseeable. Reactive measures, I would contact the district and union lawyers, contact the parents of both students, both the one that pushed the student and Flanagan's parents, review locker room supervision policies. I've worked in schools before where, although the teachers have an office in the locker room, they don't directly monitor students while they're changing, because that's a whole nother thing. So I would wonder what the policies were around supervising the locker room. Proactive measures, ensure that a teacher is always monitoring students, always nearby, and that wasn't the case in this. And then professional ethics, anti-bullying measures are important to teach from an early age. This is elementary school, so that could have helped. And then strong classroom management as well. Next one's Munn versus Hotchkiss School. Munn was a student who went on a class trip to China and was bitten by a tick while hiking and contracted encephalitis. Her family sued the school for not protecting their daughter and not giving them a heads up that there might be insects, so she could dress properly and use insect repellent, and the court did award the family $41 million in damages, which I think is a little crazy. I have been on a school trip where a student was bit by a tick before, so this one is personal for me. Reactive measures, we would rewrite the field trip liability releases so that parents are aware that unforeseen circumstances can happen, like the crazy thing about being bit by a tick and then having it give you something like encephalitis, which I don't think the school was anticipating at all. I would also research the risk of whatever area we were going to and consult with district lawyers immediately in this case. Some proactive measures, of course, researching risks before taking kids on a field trip, warning kids and families of risks before, and then training staff to attend to medical needs of students. And professional ethics, student safety is the priority, and we should be prepared for anything. And so if you know you're taking students hiking in the forest and they don't look like they're prepared for encountering insects, maybe a teacher should be prepared for that. In Barnett versus Caldwell, Mrs. Caldwell left her classroom unattended to go to the bathroom. She did ask another teacher next door to listen into her class, but while she was gone, some students got in what was described as horseplay. One student fell, another student landed on him. He broke his collarbone. That punctured an artery, and he unfortunately died. Mrs. Caldwell was not held liable because the court ruled that it was a discretionary act, and so even though it was a poor decision on her part, she was not liable for it. They also said that because the word supervision was not specifically defined in their school procedures as being physically present, they couldn't say that she wasn't supervising her class. Some reactive measures in this case, again, speak with district and union lawyers immediately. In this case, it was the teacher herself who was sued, so a union lawyer can definitely help her. Visit with the family, interview students that were in the classroom as to what went on, as well as the neighboring teacher who was asked to listen in, and then consult the school handbook of what the procedures are for teachers and supervising their classrooms. Some proactive measures: give teachers a way to use the bathroom without leaving students alone. I know some teachers do have this agreement. I've had that as a teacher where my classroom was connected to another teacher's and I told her to, hey, listen in, pop your head in while I go to the bathroom. I know most teachers have probably done that. We have emergencies. So having a way for a teacher to call an administrator, a counselor to come watch their class is definitely a way to prevent things like this from happening. And then professional ethics, student safety is the most important thing for school officials. And then teachers should always help each other out. I don't know the specifics of what happened with that teacher that was supposed to be listening in, but if teachers are willing to help each other out, dangerous situations can be avoided. And then the last one is Cormier versus City of Lynn, where an elementary school student was pushed down a flight of stairs by another student who had been bullying him. Apparently the staff had been informed of the bullying situation and had not acted on it. The student who got pushed down the stairs ended up being paralyzed, and the family sued. But the court ruled that the school is not liable because they did not originally cause the situation of bullying. They just failed to address it. And so the school could have done more, but was not ultimately responsible for the actions of the other student. Some reactive measures in this case: I would interview teachers who knew about the bullying, see what they had done or hadn't done, how much they knew, and analyze the situation that led to those boys being on top of the stairs where one could push another one down. Some proactive measures: the school should take more action against reports of bullying, and knowing that they can lead to really dangerous situations. If they had been informed several times, they should have done a little more. Professional ethics, social emotional learning in classrooms, especially in elementary school, when kids are learning the difference between right and wrong, should take priority. And then taking bullying claims really seriously so things like this don't happen. So that is some examples of tort cases in schools and different liability situations. Thanks.